What up? Wade here. Today what we're going to talk about are the 5 fundamentals to becoming an elite level networker. And so you might be thinking, if you know my history at all, I ran around nightclubs for a few years there, like close to a decade, meeting random strangers, cold approaching women, making friends with other people in the nightclub environment, and you'd think I'd be probably a pretty good networker. That I thought so too. But for some reason, I had this strong apprehension towards it, getting started. And then the first few times that I went out, I had like through friends of friends, they introduced me to people. And the first ones, let's just say they did not go very well. Because what I was doing, I was trying to apply the things that I had learned in the dating side of things to networking. And some are the same, but some are the exact opposite. So what I'm gonna get into here, it's probably kind of 5 of the biggest mistakes that I see, biggest learning lessons, and also just kind of the most important strategies to make it so you can build an amazing network of successful people. So the first one, number 1, what it is you just get started. So as I said, when I got started, through a friend of a friend, introduced me to someone else, and I just showed up there and I was like, hey, I don't know what to talk about. I just want to say, hey, you seem successful. I'm here in Chicago. I want to meet other successful people. And I think that authenticity helped a bit, but it was fairly awkward because I wasn't prepared at all. They knew everything about me, my story. They had done their due diligence, and we'll talk about that for a different one of these key fundamental points here. And so we kind of went through the meeting, and it was kind of awkward. And at the end of it, it kind of ended fairly fast. And I just said, well, nice meeting you. See you later, because I knew I'd probably never see that person again, which was the case. That being said, after about 2 or 3 times doing it, all the little triggers went off, all the little patterns emerged, and I started seeing, oh my God, this is just like me applying to skills mastery in any other path. And you start building confidence, and all of a sudden you start meeting more and more successful people. You start building momentum, that social momentum, and everything is fine. So don't let my story scare you. Instead, it should inspire you to just get the fuck out there and start taking action. Number 2 is playing the long game. So when you're looking at your network, the network that you're creating here, and it's an abstract thing. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to sit around someday and say, wow, look at the network that I created here of all these people. It's an abstract thing. And with that sort of amorphous blob, one way that I like looking at it is kind of like a garden. So I call it your networking garden. And what's important is, let's say you want to reach out to someone and build a relationship or find a new job or do a joint venture. You need to plan now for 6 months from now. Because if you try to get that now, you're coming across way too much as a value seeker. You're trying to take from someone else, when at the start you have to be coming from a complete place of abundance and just saying, hey, you know what? I just want to meet some cool people and network for the sake of networking, basically. So start and look at it like you're just planting these little seeds. It's a little garden. And slowly it's flourishing and they're turning into beautiful flowers. And those beautiful flowers lead to fruit, which plant and lead to even bigger flowers. And it's a great little metaphor / analogy, whatever you want to call it. And what happens is, I think a lot of times people are held back because they start and say, you know what? I don't have any place to start here. I'm going to go to a weird meetup event and everyone there is just looking for a job or something. You got to start somewhere. It's a garden. It takes time. And over time, just as you build social momentum, you build momentum in the people that you meet, and you start meeting better and better people. You go out, you meet some guy who maybe you have nothing in common with, but who does he know? And you also get more creative as saying, well, what about your dad? Does he have any friends at work? Maybe the boss, maybe your dad's boss. You talk to him, who does he know? And then you branch out, and through that and being a little bit on the offense, as opposed to just kind of passively sitting back and think, oh, maybe somebody will come fall into my lap, my perfect mentor or the perfect friend for me. Being a little bit more offensive and saying, well, is there anyone you know that would be a good fit? Or is there anyone you know that would be interested in this idea that I have or that could help me out with this idea? And just a little bit of that, you'll look back 6 months from now and you'll say, whoa, this garden is starting to flourish. Number 3 is the elevator pitch. And this comes from, you're pitching the CEO, he's in the lobby, and all of a sudden you got 2 to 3 minutes, he jumps in the elevator, and he's in the elevator, and you're pitching your product, and all of a sudden, boom, he gets out, you got to make it done in that short period of time. And the way that I like doing this is I break it up into 3 different steps for what you are creating your elevator pitch at the start of a networking event when you're meeting lots of people, at the start of a presentation, or if you go into a specific meetup when you're actually networking out and meeting someone. And the first part is going to be the problem. The second part is the solution, and then the third part is why you are the one to solve that problem. So for the problem, this is whatever problem you're trying to solve. This is your idea within your career. Let's say you're an accountant. The problem you're solving is helping people get better taxes or something like that. Or if it's your business. So 3 Impacts, we're all about raising awareness, increasing confidence, self-esteem, and emotional intelligence. That's kind of the problem. We're helping people raise those. The solution we have is through online products, seminars, and courses. That's our solution. If you're a CPA, it's maybe you're do special consulting practices, whatever it is. I'm not a CPA. I don't even know. And then the solution, or the third part, is why are you qualified? And so for me, I'd say, you know what? I traveled the world, over 40 countries, worked with people one-on-one, then apprenticed with an amazing mentor to really refine that knowledge to where now I truly am able to create the breakthrough change on the subconscious level. And that's kind of my little personal history leading to why I am qualified to solve the problem at the start of the elevator pitch. So what you want to do is think of those three things for yourself, and you come at it that way. It just comes across really strong when you're like, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's why I'm qualified. People can really put that in a little box. You want it to be not more than a minute, 2 minutes long, and boom, you got your elevator pitch. Part 4 is doing your due diligence. Lots of D's there. And so what this is like I said, when I started networking, I went and met a few people that were actually at a very high level because luckily I had some good connections through coaching. And even though it was very awkward, I learned a lot from those situations. And what I noticed was these people, even though some of them were way more successful than me, had way more connections and weren't willing to give them away, because what they did when they went in to meet with me, they're like, oh my God, I heard you traveled to all these countries. What was that like? I saw a few of your YouTube videos. How's that going? I saw you just started a new business. How's that going? And they've done so much research that they knew all these things about me. And I was there like, I didn't know anything about them. So what you want to do when you're going to meet someone, whether this is a one-on-one, or let's say you're even going to some seminar event, choose 5 people before you go that you want to contact, or one you talk to, and then do some research. Look at the first 2 or 3 pages on Google. Search their name, look for the first 2 or 3 pages. Make sure to check out their LinkedIn. Make sure your LinkedIn is good too. That kind of goes back to the elevator pitch. And so do enough research that when you have the conversation, it's not weird if you know too much about them. It shows respect. It shows that you're interested. And they're like, oh, thank you that's amazing that you know this all about me. Like, who are you? And what do you got to going on here and all that sort of stuff. It's a really good place to start from. And that one is very different than, let's say, if you knew what I talked about from like the dating advice, then you just want to not care at all to show that you're higher value. Here is not a place where you just want to be like, I'm higher value. I don't give a shit. I got so much success. It doesn't matter. That just comes across as you're a dick. It comes across as you're not coming from a place of abundance. And the people that have the biggest Rolodex, the people that have the most people in their cell phone there are coming from a place of abundance. And you want to be doing the same, which starts with really caring about the other person. So make sure to really put the time in. And the 5th and final key to becoming an elite level networker is doing the proper follow-up. And so this is making sure, it's almost like a job interview. After you meet up with someone, make sure to text them or send an email saying, hey, it was so great meeting you, and really be like, bring it out, like have some enthusiasm, some passion there. Be like, thank you so much for the connection. And I guess back with the due diligence that you're doing here, it's always great to, like I said, you want to be on the offensive and say, who do they know that you guys could get connected with? As well as thinking for yourself, how could you connect them? And then in this follow-up, it's a great time to say, hey, thanks for that book you offered. I'm definitely going to check it out. And then do go read it and follow up again. And if we're going back to the networking garden analogy here, we're kind of tying all of these together for the final one, is that as that starts to flourish, as it starts to grow, you got to continually follow up. If you don't water your plants, if you don't put fertilizer in, the garden dies. It just falls into bullshit, nothing there. So those little texts, those little emails, the follow-ups, and then making sure 3-4 weeks later, contact them again, 3-4 weeks later, or every 2 weeks, or set something up where you're meeting more consistently. Start a mastermind and be the one to be the connector of networking a lot of different people together. Then all of a sudden, that's what makes this process flourish here. And I think because it's kind of this abstract thing, again, guys are like, how do I build my social circle? How do I get that awesome network of people? It's not like I said at the beginning that you sit back one day and you can see it, this visualization of, oh my God, look at this beautiful network that I've created. It's much more like these little Kaizen, 1% here, 1%, another text, another email. You're connecting people together. You're offering value. You're doing more networking every week. Every other week, you're meeting with new people. And at the start, you're saying, this isn't even coming, nothing is resulting because of this. I'm not making more money. I really don't even know if these connections are going to lead to anything. Again, all of a sudden you look back 6 months from now and you'll say, man, you have so much momentum, so many more relationships, a better social circle with more successful people. And it all comes from the 5 fundamentals of networking like a champ. All right, so those are the 5 fundamentals. but there's way more things that you can focus on. We have a full success blueprint on this. But what I'd like to give you today is a free little resource. We have the networking checklist, which is a great resource where you can just open this thing up and go through and do the checklist to prepare as best as possible for your next networking meetup, whether that be an event or one-on-one in person. So to get that, all you got to do is click the little link below, and you're going to love it. As always, enjoy.